Even the media exposed some of the culprits. And therefore, it doesn't make sense when a whole CS in charge of internal security comes and starts opening files now, 5 days after the occurrence of the event. I think we need to take security seriously, and no less than the CS for internal security himself should be at the forefront of this. In fact, when I look at previous holders of that office, and my immediate recollection is that of the late John Michuki, the late Professor Saitoti, then Murkomen is a pale shadow of what an interior minister should be. Regardless of whether we support the president or not, matters of security affect all of us. And we cannot condone security or insecurity, especially this time when we are just about to go into a serious election. So to me, I think the minister is just employing delaying tactics. He should ask the Inspector General. In fact, the Inspector General is supposed to be independent. He should not even be referring to the minister. By now, these people should be in court this morning because we know them. Your dailies run these people over the weekend so that they can be an example to the rest. And it makes it even worse when it is some of our colleagues who are perpetrating this violence or who are the center or financing this violence. We should not allow insecurity in our electoral issues. Let us debate, let us vote, but let us not fight about office. Because it could go either way. Okay. And you saw in Olkalau, the citizens were actually armed with stones, but they repulsed even people with guns. That is a very dangerous trend that we are starting.
Well, these members of parliament that were out there involved in these with these gangs, and their cars were taken, photos of their cars were taken. Some of them, we have them on video. You know, we actually have them on video because I don't know what the CS is saying. You know, CS is trying to sugarcoat a very obvious thing. So for me, I think what needs to happen is action needs to be taken. Let us stop the stories. Yeah. 2 people are dead. The laws have been broken, and the people are known. Take them to court. That is straightforward. That is the first thing they should do. But as usual, Kenya is a political country. That if you are politically aligned to the ruling party, it doesn't matter what you do. You can commit murder and walk away. You know, the thing that shocks me is that Kenya has gone through a very rough period. Remember in 2007, 2008, when we had post-election violence, it started from this kind of situation where you play around, you harass people, you intimidate people, use very derogatory language against your opponents, like the president constantly keeps doing. And then the thing slowly escalates and reaches a point where now Kenyans turn against each other. I can see the same script being repeated. And I want to say this, and I will say this because the President, William Samoei Ruto, is one of those people that were taken to ICC because of political violence in 2007, 2008, because of the atrocities committed against Kenyans in the Rift Valley, particularly those communities that he didn't believe in and those they felt that were voting against their wishes. And this is why he ended up in ICC. I'm seeing a repeat. So, I'm seeing a repeat where the president again, with his brigade, want to weaponize politics. Yeah. And they've come up with the worst thing that can ever happen to a country, a situation where goons are actually being used to ensure they silence political opponents. That is not the Kenya. Okay. That is not the Kenya we want. That is not the Kenya under the rule of law. That is not the Kenya we voted in 2010 a new constitution to have.
Okay. Yeah. I promise to take it up myself. Okay. Because of what happened in Kisii. Yeah. Yes. Okay. To the gentleman also who was yes. fell victim. Yes, we lost of a similar instance. Correct. All right. Yes, Honorable Kagusha.
The All Kalau effect. The All Kalau effect. It's good because you can see even my brother Manduku here now has finally admitted there is such a big problem in this security docket. We have a CS Murkomen now, we refer to him as a CS for goonism and extrajudicial killings. Government has lost legitimacy. And we can all see that the government and Murkomen has resorted into use of extra-constitutional means to addressing what he should have addressed officially and constitutionally. Security, for example, should be offered by government without favor, because it's a constitutional mandate. But today, what we are seeing is measures that are being taken. Murkomen is using goons. He's also using outlawed gangs. He's using unofficial, hooded, black cover, young boys who are recruited from one region. This squad was recruited, and I remember the former, or the People's Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. I remember him describing vividly how this team has been recruited, how many members are in that team, or the squad, the killer squad, the hit squad. And even when they were bought for Subarus, I think there were about 200 Subarus that were bought through NIS. He reported the same. These young men, and they are young boys, by the way, very, very young boys, between 21 to 26, 27 years of age. They are about, I'm now told that the squad has been increased in number up to around 1,000. And they have about 200 Subarus that they use. So this is a squad that has been formed to deal with intimidation, to quiet and silence Kenyans. This is a team that grabbed and stole the 7 million camera from one of the media houses, and to be more specific, the Nation Media. This is a team that harassed the media and stole all their phones that they were using to record, because they're plunging us into the old days whereby information is not supposed to go to the people. And that team has been used, and part of it has been attached to political players. We, for example, are told last week one of the cars that was used was owned by Honorable Kawanjiko. And I don't know whether he's Honorable Kawanjiko or Dishonorable Kawanjiko of Kiambaa constituency.
Data from the National Transport Authority verified as such.
Yeah, I saw it in the headlines yesterday. Okay. So now that is verified, that indeed one of the cars was belonging to a member of parliament. That tells you what you have been saying, that these team members of this killer squad has been attached to certain politicians to use it at will. We have seen a woman rep who has moved to the squad of about 15, lethal hit squad. That is sanctioned by Murkomen himself. I remember having a talk with him, Murkomen, recently. And he was asking me, how has Nyeri resorted, or Mount Kenya resorted into fighting against itself? And I told him, shame on you. You know what you're doing. You know that you have taken political players that support you, you arm them, you give them guns, you give them a hit squad, they carry that hit squad with them to unleash violence against innocent Kenyans, and then you sit back and laugh at us that we are fighting against ourselves. That is coming to an end. The All-Kalau effect. The All-Kalau effect, that is coming to an end. Okay. You saw how the goons were arrested by regular Kenyans. You saw how they were questioned. And if you come to harass Kenyans as a goon, it will not be easy for you. And by the way, even that killer hit squad that has been armed to come and harass Kenyans, I am telling you, Kenyans are not fearing those your arms again. Okay. You're either going to kill all Kenyans, or they will disarm you. And because we cannot report it to Murkomen or even to IG Kanja, who has also become part of this squad, part of this scheme, by silence and by abating it. Because you will not be reported there, Kenyans will just have a way of dealing with you in a different way.
Isn't that not dangerous in a democracy that is governed by the rule of law?
That is why we are saying IG Kanja, Murkomen, William Ruto, you are taking us the Haiti way. We will not allow you. And by the way, you are the ones who will leave this country to Kenyans to run it in a peaceful way. You are the ones who will leave and go to Haiti.
This is certainly not healthy in a democracy. And even they are firing at the direction of uniformed police officers. This is our car. This the grey Hilux. And you can see in the next transition, you will see them firing even at the direction of a uniformed police officer. This is what we are witnessing. Look at this. These are uniformed police officials. And the gentleman comes up from the Prado and shoots the tear gas towards even the uniformed police officials.
And I was there when we were vetting CS Murkomen. And we were of the opinion that having been a senator, excuse me, having served as senator, he understands, the law and probably he would have done a good job. And he had also been, I think at one time, censured by the youth about, opulence. And I think he implied that he would change his ways. When we were vetting him the last time, it wasn't to be CS Interior. It was to be in charge of the docket of sports and something to do with the youth. Now, obviously, once you're vetted, it means that then your capability, you can be in any docket. Unfortunately, what we are seeing is not what we were expecting. He has really he's taken us very far back as a country. And it is within his period that the culture of goons taking control of the electoral process, and Ayub, it's not just about the election day itself. It's also before the elections when people are campaigning. The electoral law, the electoral code of conduct says that you cannot impede anyone from accessing the voter during the period of campaigns. But you have seen many times when the same goons will be used to intimidate political players when they're having rallies, when they're having meetings. And it is constantly the meetings that are actually being run by those in the opposition, us in the opposition, that are intimidated and that are suppressed. All the meetings, and there are so many more meetings. In fact, watch your news. You see like they have meetings like almost 10 to 1. They will have like 10 meetings over the weekend when we have 1 or 2. But in our 2 meetings, there will be total chaos. The only thing you'll be reporting is the chaos that occurred. And there are 10 meetings that will be there dancing to the tune of UDA. So this CS has failed us. Now, the idea of impeachment is there in law. Unfortunately, again, I was involved in an impeachment process of the former CS for Agriculture. I was actually the vice chair of the committee. And it was a kangaroo court, I must say, because I actually did pen a contrary opinion to the committee's report, because my concern at that time was that if there was a problem in the issue of the fake fertilizer, the most important person we should have invited would have been 2. One is a person, the owner of the company that was supposed to have produced the fake fertilizer, and 2, the PS for the Ministry of Agriculture. The whole committee, including the chair, shouted me down and shut it down. And then we ended up carrying out a process, in my opinion, which was a process in futility. We couldn't have gotten to the bottom of it. It's the same thing that will happen. Money changes hands. I don't like saying it, but I have to say because it's true, that even if we were to attempt to impeach the CS for Interior, money would change hands. And you would see people that you least expect to actually stand in that house and support and say he's doing a wonderful job. So that's why we find it difficult to, under the current situation with a parliament that is neutered by the executive, to actually be able to operate. I would be very happy to start an impeachment motion of that nature. But it has happened in the past that those impeachment motions become money-making schemes for some of the members. So I would not venture now. And Kenyans should know that their parliament cannot do the right thing by them. That's why they have 1 year to elect members that can actually represent them fairly. Okay. But then why these goons? And it's important, Ayub, to answer that question. Why these goons on that day? Ayub, in the morning of that day, the UDA brigade carried their voters. They ferried a lot of their voters to the polling stations. And they voted, they cast their votes. I think they already knew what they were planning. Because in the afternoon, when hundreds and hundreds of voters were in the queues, is when this chaos started. It started after 2 p.m. Now, that was just very close to the end of voting, because at 5 p.m. is when the voting stations are to be closed. The idea was to suppress voter turnout. One of the polling stations, the one that was hit first, after they were hit, after the chaos, no one else voted. So we are talking about 200, 300, 400 people that never voted.
Mumbi polling station.
It was Mumbi.
Yeah.
Immediately after the chaos, nobody voted. So that means that the idea was to suppress voter turnout so that they can reduce the vote the margin, because it was going to be well over 90%, the difference. So the idea was intimidate people, stop them from voting, so that even if we lose, we don't get embarrassed. Unfortunately, the embarrassment is already there.
Yeah.
I want to say here that once we take over power in 2027, we shall not use these scare tactics. We'll allow Kenyans free will, because we've realized political influence and state power does not win elections. It does not intimidate the Kenyans, and Kenyans can be given anything and be coerced in whatever manner, but they'll make their decision.
Okay.
I think the president needs to sit down and relook at his strategy, especially in Mount Kenya. He needs to look at the close advisors, the people he entrusted to deliver this election. A score of 13%, Ayub, is a very low score in everything, or in anything for that matter. And I think it is time the president rearranged his team. Besides that...
which team specifically? He has so many teams.
The team that is dealing with Mount Kenya.
Okay.
But having said that, Ayub, we from other regions also feel shortchanged because Mount Kenya constantly, consistently gets a lion's share of everything. Public investments are very high in the region, even historically, from independence. Honorable Kagusha will drive from this studio to his house on Tarmac. I cannot do that. And so are many of my colleagues from Western and Nyanza. His constituency has connection of beyond 70%. I am at 30%, and I found it like that. Their people are harvesting or reaping the highest proceeds from coffee, more than ever before. But yet, they still complain. The only thing that Mount Kenya doesn't have is the presidency. They have everything else. Look at cabinet appointments, Ayub. Look at PS positions. They have the bulk of everything. And they'll argue that they are majority. Yes, but if we did statistical analysis of their population, vis-a-vis what they occupy, they still have a lion's share. Come to health, historically. Infant mortality in Kisii is 24. In Kiambu, it's 8. Siaya is 64. They have advantages from history, and yet they still complain about William Ruto. The only mistake William Ruto has done is to equalize development in the country, and that is a beef they have with William Ruto. From where we sit, we think that the president needs to reconsider the favors that he extends to this region, because they're not going to vote for him.
So
the way they're behaving.
What does that constitute now? What are the favors?
If he focuses on other regions, okay. Nyanza, Western, Kisii,
they don't pay
Coast.
All right. So Honorable John Kagusha comes from Mukurweini, Nyeri. I consider him a Kenyan citizen. So therefore, if whatever he gets out of competence and qualification is not a privilege, is it? Is a right he's entitled to.
That is what you're saying. But what is the reality? How many CSs are in cabinet from Mount Kenya?
Majority, 7. Okay.
How many are they? What is the population of Mount Kenya? Okay. It's 17% of the population. So 17% of 22 positions is 4 positions.
The point is then, the cabinet is constituted by the head of state. And he did so knowing who he was awarding which cabinet portfolio. So now, why is that certainly a yardstick for a measure of
those favors that he extended to them are not yielding fruits? And going forward, he needs to reorganize and look at other regions too. Why does Kisii have 1 cabinet position? Traditionally, we had 2 from independence. These guys have 8, and yet they're not appreciating. That is a problem we have.
But this is a democracy, is it?
42 members.
All right, this is a democracy.
Yeah, but we don't elect ministers. Yeah, they are appointed.
So cabinet appointments do not necessarily translate to a support for the head of state, is it?
That is
you
what
can be a performer and still voted out. That's democracy.
You see, Ayub, what we are saying,
yeah.
We feel that other regions are not getting equal attention, and yet we are potentially better going to the next election than these people.
And now that you are in the broad-based arrangement, why then do you think that the president constituted his cabinet in this style when he took over office in 2022, even in instances where 1 year later he complained of them, some lacking competency?
I think he was first rewarding them for electing him into office, and secondly, investing for the next election, knowing that they will still be with him. But what I'm saying now, it's apparent that they're not with him, and that is the truth.
So you are clearly admitting then that at the expense of political expediency, he awarded incompetence, and that's the problem.
Well, whatever you call it, Ayub, what we are saying is that Western Kenya, Nyanza, Coast is shortchanged in this arrangement, and we want equity so that we can support him 100%.
Okay. Go and tell him to sack the Mount Kenya MPs, ministers and PSs. and ask him to instead appoint people who come from the areas that are feeling marginalized. So I really don't want to take on that, but I can tell you that whatever happens in Mukurweini is not a favor from William Ruto. It is out of the tax that we pay. It's also out of constitutional rights that we enjoy, which are not a favor nor a donation from William Ruto or any other person. Just staying on the Ol-Kalou effect, there are a few things that are not disputable. You know, we come from different political persuasions, and so we can disagree on what the Ol-Kalou effect might actually be, the impact. But there are a few things that are also not disputable, which I think we can all agree. For example, the issue of the voter bribery, inducements and government projects have been neutralized by what shall henceforth be referred to as Ol-Kalou effect. This will happen across board. We saw it happening yesterday in Trans Nzoia, where Oparanya and I think who was the other minister?
Alan Chesang, the Senate.
Yeah, Chesang. They were chased by people there, and they were told, we don't want these favors and we don't want these inducements.
Handouts.
You know, we don't handouts. We want to be treated with dignity. So that is going to catch. Tomorrow, Honorable Manduku, as much as you think Ol-Kalou is far off your area, when you go to your constituency, your constituents will demand to see what they have seen in Ol-Kalou first. And again, any favors and money and bribery that is given to them will not be taken kindly, especially if it doesn't meet the threshold of Ol-Kalou. Blanket, shoes, mattresses, 5,000 shillings, food, and all that. Boats, train. You know, if it doesn't meet that threshold, you will have it very rough. And can you imagine? Every Kenyan now will be saying, if those Ol-Kalou people got all those things and they still voted right, then who are we? So that is going to be a problematic area for all the politicians in Kenya, those who are treating Kenyans mechanically. Of course, the other thing that came out, and I think is not disputable, is that Kenyans are now more emboldened, courageous, brave, and willing to face whatever kind of intimidation from government forces to protect the integrity of their vote, right from the vote to declaration. So you saw that happening, and those guys were not cowed in any way. Of course, the other issue, of course, is that Ruto's government legitimacy now is in question. That is why they are resorting into extra constitutional measures to handle Kenyans, especially use of goons, the illicit groups, and those black cover-hooded young men, of course, recruited from one region. To put this clear, the chairman of IBC, Bwana Ethcon, also exposed his biasness in these electoral matters by anticipating violence in a constituency that was largely peaceful. That, in a way, was seen that he was reading from the government premeditated violence script. Because on a Friday, he said that he's going to cancel elections in Ol-Kalou because it was violent. And yet, there was no violence in Ol-Kalou at that point. So we saw like he was reading from a premeditated script of violence from government. And that exposed him very negatively. And also the fact that he also claimed that he could cancel elections in a constituency also made us wonder whether he is aware of the boundaries that he can go to as a CEO or as chairman of IBC.
Whoever is found to have been that person who was shooting in the air, it doesn't matter who sponsored them, who took them there, or who was protecting them. And that is actually the position of the law. And we definitely look forward to getting information as to the people who've been identified. Remember, 2 weeks ago, there was an attack on was it Holy Family Basilica?
Yeah.
Yes, an ongoing
public participation
process where they were attacked by unidentified young men also. And some of them were arrested. Similarly, the incident that happened in Kisumu is an example of what we are seeing as a worrying trend, where politicians with their political differences and different formations, each would come up with their groups to protect them. And so it's something that we shouldn't take for granted and say that from among the political class, they have a role to play. The police also on their part are saying, look, we are conducting investigations because their mandate is largely to keep peace, protect everyone, no matter your political dispensation.
Does the political establishment understand the fire they are playing with?
That if we are unable to be provided security by the state, then we have to secure ourselves. You cannot sit in your house and the thugs come and storm your house and attack you and you don't defend yourself. So the buck stops in the executive. The buck stops, the first highest level is the executive, the president himself. And then, of course, through his CS to the Inspector General of Police. So basically for us, we are saying that this regime has failed. A senior political leader, member of parliament, was here in this studio, I think, a week ago, and say that all political players have goons. I have never had a goon, even one. I'm serving my third term. The people of Kathiani are listening to me. So I'm not speaking to, I'm not speaking here and then it ends here. The people of Kathiani will tell you, I have never worked with any goon. I go to functions alone. My driver, my bodyguard, they don't even walk with me. When I come out in church, I walk alone to the front, or whatever it is, I'll go to sit in a funeral. In any function, I don't walk around with goons. I have never been supported by goons. I don't believe in the goon culture because you will feed that monster and then it will turn against you. And that is what is happening. You've seen the kind of culture of goons. You saw the attacks in Kisumu. On Linda Mwananchi rallies. You saw the attacks in Nyahururu. You saw the attacks that were in Kisii some time back, where someone lost his life because some people decided that no one can stop and speak in this town because every time you come to this town, you insult our member of parliament. Up to now, no action has been taken. And the CS tells us that, we are opening files. For how long are you going to be opening files? Are you still opening the file of Kisii up to now? Are you still opening the file of Kisumu up to now? Are you still opening the file of Nyahururu up to now, where the driver of the governor was actually shot? So I think we keep being given stories, and it's going to continue for a very long time. What they forget is what you have said, Ayub, that it starts small, but then it builds. And I'll tell you this, and you observe, every time the president walks around in the city of Nairobi, he also deploys a lot of young people to go around with him. What happens is that immediately after his function, there's total mayhem. People are robbed, people are beaten up in those meetings. No one wants the president to visit their estate because they know the minute he leaves, those young men will be left robbing everyone. You capture them on camera every single time. So this is a culture that has to stop. And the president must understand, your yearning for political power should not go against the wishes of all of us as Kenyans. Let us protect the country because Kenya is bigger than any one individual. Anyone can be president. By the way, Ayub, nothing stops me from vying for the presidency. Any one of us can be president. You can be president of the Republic of Kenya. You have every requirement in the constitution to be. So why is it that in the interest of preserving political power, you make sure that you beat everyone to submission? That is not how you will win. That is dictatorship. It is outdated, and in today's day and age, with the intelligence of the people and the education of our people, it's not even viable. It's not even possible. So even if you take over power in that kind of manner, you cannot even retain it. I listened to Honorable Manduku, and Honorable Manduku made this whole situation become a very personal to the Mount Kenya region, and I think that's also something we must move away from. Demonizing a whole community that they have been getting things, they've been getting electricity, they've been getting roads. They pay taxes like everyone else. And if there is a problem, if there was any unfair distribution, it is the leaders that were in office that time that should have raised it. Now, today we cannot say that there's a certain area that got development, so we stop providing development. That can't be fair. We as leaders cannot be looking at the next election constantly. So that our argument is that because you won't get votes from a certain region, then you don't support them, ignore them, and leave them out. It is wrong. And that is what we must fight. Ayub, I am facing pressure from my constituents because of this by-election. Manduku says it's a small thing in a small rural village. The
bar is high.
It is affecting me in my constituency. It has affected the CS of Paranya in Trans Nzoia. And that Trans Nzoia is not next to Olkalau. It is actually an effect that we must all be alive to.
The Olkalau effect.
The Olkalau effect is that when all these goodies were taken to the people of Kathiani are asking, our member of parliament cannot manage, and I can confess here, I have 87 villages that don't have electricity. I would love for them to be connected because those are my people. But if I was to drop dead, God forbid, if I was to kick the bucket, electricity would be taken to those 87 villages in the attempt to win that seat back. I have a road that was launched by the president, none other than the president himself. In 2017, a very short road from a place called Keno to Kani. That road has stalled for almost 10 years now. If I was to drop that, God forbid, it would be finished instantly. I have no KMTC. If I was to kick the bucket, KMTC would be built in that constituency. Why? Because we do things for political expediency. We don't serve the people because they deserve. And the people of Kathiani deserve just like anybody else. I want to say that as leaders and as we go into the next dispensation, we must start being fair to each other. We must ensure that everybody gets fair distribution and the resources are not just taken to a place where somebody wants a seat. Let the president serve the whole country. Let everyone get their fair share.
And because we are now focusing on the next election, Honorable Mbuya will pretend that the next election doesn't matter. But he himself, I can assure you, is putting in strategies to ensure that he comes back to Parliament. We are now focusing on the next election. We are focusing on re-electing President William Ruto. And we are telling him, hey, look at the guys you're dealing with in the mountain. They can't deliver for you. Look for different people. Look for different strategies. Look for different associations or coalitions that can ensure a smooth victory for you in 2027. If it means dropping off many of his colleagues, then so be it. And that is what we are saying. And anybody reasonable will see my point.
We are saying he drops skin.
Secondly, we are not at the same baseline as regions. Whether it is a mistakes of the past or current mistakes, we are not at the same baseline in any development. And so the current president should not keep pumping in resources where already some people are ahead of us. That is what I'm saying. First, make the country equitable. Allow, for example, all of us to have 50% power connection in the country before you start investing more in regions that, one, will not support you, two, have historically had significant development. Never mind, he was not in office then. But also, Ayub, these people also don't tell you that William Ruto came into office under very difficult circumstances. He found a debt of 9 trillion shillings when he came in. I sit in the public debt committee, and I'll tell you
excuses
that when he came into office, he didn't find things easy. But for now, when we look at it, he has built this country under difficult circumstances. Never mind the harassment, political harassment that he gets from his so-called former associates. And so we're in this thing to win the next election for now. And that is why Honorable Kagusha is teaching me a terminology called Olkalau effect. We must ensure that if there's such an effect, it dies off as soon as possible.
It can't.
So we kill it.
You didn't create it. You can't kill it.
You get the choice of word, kill.
Okay.
There was no exit poll from UDA that gave us 48 a day before the elections. I'm a member of UDA, and I sit in a number of organs of the party, and we conduct polls. So it is wrong for Kagusha here to lie to the public that he was told that the exit polls by UDA was 48 a day before the election. It's untrue.
All right.
Whether or not polls were done, it's an election that has happened, and we should be talking about, look, we've had 8 by-elections, DCP has won 1, they are singing left, right, center as if there is nothing else they are doing, and we are saying this is democracy. Allow the people of Olkalau to enjoy the member of parliament they've elected.
Let me handle a few issues that were raised by Manduku here. Yes. That Nyaribari Masaba is not receiving development, apparently because Mukurweini is. We are members of parliament with Manduku, and we all lobby for projects and funds and development from the same budget. It's unfair or is insincere for Manduku now to claim that the reason why his constituency is not receiving is because my constituency is getting. And he actually goes ahead to think that my constituency, Mukurweini, is getting a favor because we are from Mount Kenya region. Far be it from the truth that I am a one-term member of parliament. He's a two-term member of parliament.
A one-term.
One-term is the first term.
Well, I'm the first term.
No, we subscribe to the one-term movement
the slogan.
of sending William Ruto home.
But yours corresponds still.
And he prescribes to the one-term movement, to the two-term movement of retaining Ruto. And they have been told that if you are in government, then you receive development. Yes. If you are not in government, then you don't receive development. And I think Kenyans, you can see clearly, it is not about whether you support Ruto or you don't. It's about how you lobby for projects and development in parliament. That is how you end up getting support and development in your constituency. So when you are electing members of parliament, elect a member who can lobby at the level where a budget is made. The other issue is that he says that William Ruto needs to reconsider his team that is helping him with Mount Kenya region. It doesn't matter who William Ruto considers in Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya is gone once and for good. Mount Kenya will never ever support William Ruto again. And let it be on record that nobody can have the audacity or the mandate or the authority to sit and negotiate with William Ruto under whatever circumstances to have Mount Kenya support William Ruto again. For a very simple reason, betrayal. It all boils down to betrayal. He betrayed the trust he was given by the people of Mount Kenya region. And that is gone and gone for good. So I have heard some people are arguing that William Ruto will get 30% support from Mount Kenya region for his re-election. Now it is clear he will not get even 5%. When Manduku here says that William Ruto should stop channeling development to Mount Kenya region because he's not receiving support, will you also ask him to stop collecting taxes from Mount Kenya? Because it's also apparent that Mount Kenya is also contributing heavily to the taxes of this country. And of course you see that is a defeatist approach and thinking.
In 1996, when Raila Odinga disagreed with Kijana Wamalwa, he left Ford Kenya and went to the National Development Party, the Tinga Party. In fact, his father, in 1966, when he disagreed with Kenyatta, went and formed the Kenya People's Union, and there was a mini general election in Kenya. Why can't Honorable Kagusha do the honorable thing? Instead of being in UDA for the benefit of UDA, together with his colleagues who are now subscribing to a new party, leave the party. And then we have a mini general election and see if he'll come back among other people.
We left the party long time ago.
We don't take advantage of your parliamentary seat while preaching or subscribing to another party. You know it is illegal, Honorable Kagusha. You're a lawyer, you know these things.
We left your party.
Why don't
we don't subscribe to UDA.
Why don't you resign? Then we go for election and see if you'll win your seat.
We are going to have an election next year. Yeah. Let's see whether we win our seat. And by the way, let me put it on record. Important. Allow me to put it on record. Allow me to put it on record. On 28th July.
The airtime.
Yeah, on 28th July this year, I am going to be tabling an impeachment motion against CS Murkomen for his abating and encouraging, financing these goons and hitmen to harass, intimidate Kenyans. Okay. So I want to appeal to my colleagues here to support you. To support.
Start with Manduku now.
Yes.
Maybe you can start quoting him. Yes, I'll come to this.
All right. He's also challenged our colleague here to resign. But I'm also interested in knowing why isn't he then also resigning? They were part of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. They left Azimio One Kenya and joined the UDA brigade. So if it's an issue of resigning, all of them should resign. Then Wiper will be left running the house. But then he also talked about a debt that William Ruto found of 9 trillion. What is the figure now? You know, you're saying he found a very challenging big debt of 9 trillion. And he has escalated it beyond, faster than anyone in the history of this country. So you also have to be careful what you say. And they say, he has built the country, stabilized it by overtaxing Kenyans. That's one of the reasons why we are praying to get him out of office in the next election. Now, you also, Senator Sige implied that we are very happy with IBC because we won. No, Senator, we are not happy with IBC. We still have issues about what they said before the election, and we believe that this is a William Ruto-led IBC. That in fact it is the will of the people that was so overwhelming that they could do nothing about it. In fact, by the time we got to the tallying center, we had tallied our votes and finished. We didn't even go to the tallying center. We actually tallied our votes from our own tallying center, got figures and photos of everything, and relaxed until they called us to go and get our certificate. Because we didn't have much in terms of believing in them. But then when Sige came, he missed out the beginning of the show. And I think it's important that we tell you that our concern with the CS Murkomen is captured very well in the Daily Nation. Empty talk. Actions speak louder than words. How come that all these goon activities that he's aware of, there is no action that are taken, nobody is arrested, nobody is arraigned in court. Yet, when young people go to demonstrate about the Gen Z revolution of June 25th, they are arrested in the streets. On Sabasaba, July 7th, young men just for going out in the streets to demonstrate were arrested immediately. How can we be talking about justice if we are not doing anything about people that have actually been captured on camera, committing atrocious acts of violence against innocent citizens? In fact, I'll tell you, Ayub, that there's a video clip we saw of women actually trying to fight these armed goons with soil because they just couldn't understand why they would be attacked in that manner. So I want to just finally say that I want to thank the people of Olkalau because they've actually renewed the spirit of this country and brought back the dignity of the voter, that you cannot bribe us, you cannot intimidate us, you cannot scare us. Yes.